Well, Tammy, I would like to say welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I'm going to let you just introduce yourself and tell where you're from and that, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Since we're a small group, and then just take it from there.
Okay. Well, I'm Tammy Rockenbach. Past health here over in MD27, Wisconsin, on the other side with no snow. Um, and
And
I'm going to throw it out there. I'm an endorsed candidate for international director, so I need your vote. Go to Orlando. Now you don't hear me
and,
say that anymore. I am
and
also
what's
multiple district GMT coordinator for Wisconsin this year. And I have been on the GMA committee for several years. Last year, I also was part of Constitutional Area One's Area C as a co-leader with Jay Norby.
okay, and what city are you out of? What
I am
city?
out of Oregon, Wisconsin,
Okay.
just about 7 miles south of Madison,
Okay.
currently in the tropics. It's been very cold, but no snow.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, so just have a little bit, and I'm only kind of sharing this so that everybody knows that this is available on the LCI website on specialty clubs. There is a little bit of good information, but I think our best information is when we just share with each other.
Mhm.
So let's give it a shot. And is this going to, Matt, take me through it automatically, or am I going to always have to hit enter? So a couple of things about the specialty clubs. It is our fastest growing new clubs development out there. About 50% of every club that has been chartered has been a specialty club. I think we've kind of gotten like, where are we going to move anymore? How many more communities can we hit? And our traditional clubs don't seem to be working as well anymore. I think we need to start thinking of clubs a little bit differently. And a couple of the areas they say we can be working around clubs is basically cultures. Sorry, I've had this cold since I've been in Minnesota. Thank you. And it might be a cultural type of club. And we do have one. I'm sorry. In Wisconsin, we have an immigrants club from Ukraine. So it is based on their culture. So that might be an area we can be looking at. Life stage, retirees is a huge area that we could be looking at, or empty nesters. It could center around a cause. Maybe you have a certain passion about something. You might be hunger, and you might be working with the food pantry, and maybe getting the food pantry volunteers to form a Lions Club. It could be something on profession or education. And actually, as I'm sure you see, my hair never looks this good otherwise. I was having my hair done this morning, and we talked about this a little bit. And she's like, well, what kind of specialty club? I said, so say as a cosmetologist or hairdresser, you might want to form a club because you want to help kids. Maybe as the first day of school comes around, they want to look good. So there are a lot of people who offer free haircuts for kids, but maybe it might be for prom or graduation or things like that in lower income areas where your profession helps dictate, hey, we could do something fun like that, offering our services. It might be going into a nursing home or things like that. And she was like, I never even thought of something like that, where I could do my profession as an act of giving back. And then a lot of these center around various sports and hobbies. If you've got a soccer club or any number of types of things, those would be something that you might have a lot of interest in, and find like-minded people. Because really how we are going to start growing our Lions is by finding people who have a passion for something, and like-minded is typically it. So it also offers us an ability to have a more diverse club, because we know that there are still clubs out there that don't want maybe certain people in their clubs. So then just start a different club. In Wisconsin, we still have several men's only clubs. As I was running last year for the international director endorsement, one of them came up to me and asked me, "Are you going to make us quit being it?" I said, "International may ask you to do that because it is against our bylaws, but I would ask you first to just start a club that would allow the women." And they were like, "Okay, I guess we could do that." So we talked about some of the specialties.
Service projects on top of the racing, which we didn't have that before. We started our Nepalese cultural class through the help of the Lions Club.
Founders have always been about service and about sacrifice.
The main purpose of our club is to support the athletes and their family.
Our focus is diabetes. 21 members all fighting for the same cause.
이렇게 학생들을 가르치면서 같이 함께 봉사활동을 하는 것이 가장 큰 의미가 있다고 생각합니다.
Being a lion is very good. You feel happy when you give back. The Lions community has given me many mentors, friendship and leadership skills, networking opportunities,
Excellent tools, learning resources, for people. Anything that you want is right there. We may not be a typical Lions club, but we are a specialty club and we are Lions. LCI is ready to embrace everybody. We need to open the door and go and ask.
But when I looked at that video for the first time, I realized there were so many untapped opportunities that we have out there. I saw the crafters one. We have a club in Wisconsin that is a quilting club, and they make quilts, basically partnering with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, providing beds for people who don't have beds, and they make the quilts for it. We have a group in one of our clubs, and they're not a specialty club per se, but they make hats for underprivileged kids. They make hats for babies in the hospital. There's a lot of different specialties that we can do. So why the specialty clubs? Because we're putting like-minded people together, people who share the same passions or the same interests, which tends to build better and stronger clubs than when we're, two of our members want to do this and one wants to do this and three want to do this, and we're all over the place. And we try to do all of those needs. But maybe if we had different clubs to help with some of that, or creating branch clubs of those. So we know that there's still so many needs out there. And as I look at number 2, the disasters, as we now are being first ravaged with hurricanes, now we are being ravaged with wildfires. We know that there's disasters, people who would want and are interested in helping in those ways. Food insecurity is such a huge issue for all of our people. We have gender inequality, trying to keep girls in schools. There's actually some clubs in Africa that their goal is to keep the girls in school. And it's in many different ways they address those issues. Diabetes is one of our biggest focus areas because so many of us have diabetes, and then cancer. Vision, obviously, is always going to be a huge issue for us, and environment. And these are all areas that people get passionate about. So we make stronger clubs by being stronger than in our communities with these. So when we talk about our definition that communities change from a physical place to shared affinities and groups with similar qualities, I think during COVID, and whatever you might say, it helped us change a little bit of what we call our community. because we needed it to be different than what we had always looked at it. In my area, several of our friends, we started calling it our bubbles or our tribes. And these were people we wanted to hang out and do things with. So we really kind of started looking at what is my community a little bit differently. My community is Oregon, Wisconsin, population of about 10,000 people. My club's 21 members. And I think only 6 or 7 of them live in Oregon. We have one that lives in Pennsylvania, one that lives in Minnesota. We have 2 that live in another district, in our D2 district. 2, 3, 4 others don't live in Oregon. They're in outside communities. But they're all helping serve this particular area because a lot of it overflows. Our school district is a large school district and helps so many different areas in there. So how are we going about changing? So, you know, it's not come do what we want to do, but it's what do you want to do? If any of you have ever seen Daniel Murney Elkins, his pitch is, what's your passion? And my club does that. And I think that's how we have to start looking at things. What is your passion? And my club does that. I just recently, we get inquiries from LCI, and there was an inquiry from my own community. And I'm like, what am I going to tell him? What are we doing? Because right now we've had tons of service projects. We don't have anything coming up. And so I need to find out what his passion is. I researched him a little bit before I'll be calling him, and I have a good idea where he might fit in. So it's collaborating. It is offering maybe branch club opportunities. So maybe your club can't, maybe there's 5 people who want to do a certain thing, like just vision screening, and that's all they want to be involved in. Then maybe they become a branch club and that becomes their own specialty. They can grow that, or they can maintain it as a branch club as they need, as they continue to want to do it. But we diversify then where we spend our time and our money. Then we're not spending it in so many meetings, because who wants to sit in a meeting if vision is not my passion and we talk 45 minutes about vision screening? I can find better uses for my time. So what we're doing is we're bonding those like-minded individuals, people who have a passion for certain things, and it might simply be crafting. I have a friend who's very much into crafts, and she is now a Lion. She got all of us together and we have a craft day, but we made cards, birthday cards for kids in foster care. That to me could be easily a specialty club. There was 5 of us sitting around making clubs, and I told them that we would be counting it as a service project, because it certainly is a service project. How many other people are out there making cards for those types of things, or making cards and taking them to nursing homes and giving them the opportunity to talk to different people? So we're taking those like-minded people, and we create more fun when we're with people who want to do the same things that we're doing. So what is our program goal? Obviously, we need to start increasing our clubs, and we need to start getting new members. I have looked at our aging reports in Wisconsin, and I just presented on this last weekend in our A1 district. 20% of them are 75 and older. Add another 27 at 65 and older, and then add another 27% at 55 and older. That district, if they don't start recruiting younger members, newer members, will be aged out in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years at the most, because those people will be gone. At the rate they're doing, 18 to 25, they have 1%. So we need to start looking at how we recruit and how we get members into our clubs differently. It might be also retention and creating those branch clubs. So that's the ultimate goal. So I said 50% of our clubs now are specialty clubs. That is worldwide. So opportunities are abounding. And how are we going to get involved? So we're going to talk about this. You can go to the website and get more information and watch more videos. But I think we need to just start talking and sharing some of our ideas and how we can make specialty clubs happen in our own areas. Like I had mentioned, so some of the specialty clubs that we have a quilters club, a specialty club who makes quilts for beds for, sleep in heavenly peace. And that's a really great specialty club. We are also looking at several Hispanic speaking clubs. Why? Because they share the same culture. And one of the things is, so this last year we have been working on this immigrants club, and we really realized it isn't just a language issue, it's a culture issue. So as we were going through the PowerPoints and things like that, the questions that were then asked, obviously, and I will say we have a wonderful person over in our district over on by Lake Michigan who took every one of those LCI PowerPoints and converted them into Russian. Russian is not an official language of Lions Club International. She made everything in Russian. She did the entire open house in Russian, and then when the next group came in Ukrainian. It was the difference, because if I was there, which, I was there as support staff, if I said blah, 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 she would have said blah, blah, blah to them. They would have said, oh, question, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then it would have got back to me. She was able to just answer those questions. And once in a while, she kind of said, is that right, Tammy? What, or how many grants do we have, or things like that. But what I learned in both Russia and Ukraine is they don't have the same culture of charity that we do necessarily in the United States. It is not normal for them to serve in any capacity. So it was really a big cultural change. They then asked if they could raise money to be able to send back to the military. And this was in our group of Ukrainians, asking if they could send back to the military. And we had to say, no, probably you're not going to want to do that. But then they asked if they could send back to people who need prosthesis. Absolutely. Not something I would have ever even considered, but for them, that's what their culture was showing that they needed. I just recently introduced them to the stoves for Ukraine, and I know that they're going to start working on some of that. But that culture I did not think about was different. The Hispanic culture is very different than what the culture is in the United States also. They tend to be, more family orientated. But they also, one of the big things in our area is they do a lot with community gardens, and they already had come up with a project wanting to help food pantries. So this is an area that we can then explore. The community next door to us is about 30,000 people, and their local newspaper is in English and in Spanish. You read half of it, flip it, and you read it the other half. I mean, it's the same thing in Spanish. So it's such a huge culture there. Why are we not getting those people? They might not feel comfortable joining an English-speaking club where English is their second language, and we might have different thoughts on how we do things. Let them have their own club. So that's a big club, but right now we are working on an environmental club, getting people together who want to change the environment. Now, I didn't realize that our thoughts on this was such a big difference. People were worried that it would become too political or whatever, but let's face it, we need to start cleaning our environment up. There's so many opportunities. I discovered, we know in so many third world countries, lack of drinking water has hindered girls from going to school because they have to spend their time going for water. So how can we help make those differences? These are just some of those specialty clubs that we could be doing. There is also a program I want to briefly talk about, Join Together. You guys could probably tell me a little bit more about that because you've been successful on doing a Join Togethers. So it is finding a group that maybe already has a passion out there. And I'm going to use Jacob's voice as a group that they are out there to raise awareness about cyberbullying. 50 some members joined a Lions Club because they were able to get insurance through that. but they were able to do it because they're already a 501c3. They were able to join the club as a join together program. The money was $300 instead of $35 per person. And they already had a club going. They already had structure. They knew how to make those changes. Looking at community clubs, going to communities we've had clubs in before, and maybe if there's a community club, this is a way we can gather them to convert into a join together club, because they've already got the club together for us. I know we did, and this is before the Join Together program, we went down to Orfordville, which is, I don't know, 400, 500 people. We saw in their newspaper that they started a community club. And in the newspaper, it stated, we started a community club because we don't have Lions here and we needed something like that to make a difference. Oh, okay. Well, you will now have Lions. And we went down there, and that community club immediately decided, they talked about it very briefly and said, no, we want to be a Lions club. We didn't know how to go about and do it. Was that one of our easier conversions? Absolutely. Because several of the members already were familiar through parents and grandparents about what Lions clubs are. Might be that easy though. So I think we need to start exploring those. So I really would like to open it up to some ideas that you guys might have. Let's just start sharing. What are some of the things that we could be doing specialty clubs with? And you only need a couple people to get it started.
Well, Tammy, can I just ask a question?
Yes.
What were your steps in forming your cultural clubs? How does one get started doing that, and what did you do?
We're still working on those, but
Okay.
we have, in one case, we are doing there's a health fair going on in the community. And so we've asked if we could join in with the health fair. And we have a lot of different areas in Madison, obviously, with ethnicities that we can get in on the health fairs and just start talking to those people. In one area, we found somebody who is a Spanish teacher, so speaks fluent, but doesn't necessarily know the culture, but that's at least a start. So we're kind of really at this point trying to find a person who is already a Lion, who might be in these different ethnic groups, help us get started in those groups and finding what those passions are. And usually they have a good idea of, like I said, in the Hispanic group, we know that passion a lot of times is food orientated. And doing community gardens already, they have the passion for doing the food pantries.
So you just try to gather groups together and try to have them do things?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a get to know you type of meeting where you talk about what Lions is, or you don't really even go there?
We haven't even done that far. In some cases,
Okay.
we have done some, get to know you. So the one where with the immigrants, it was a get to know us and learn a little bit more. They were actually trying to, because it being such a war-torn area that these guys have immigrated from, they were really pushing like the peace posters. And so they had some of the peace posters there and talking about what that meant for us and then kind of what that would mean for them. And so that they know that, we're committed to peace also. We're not, always that military force.
Okay.
But I don't think
Thanks.
there's any one right way or wrong way to go about it. It's maybe finding a person who has a passion and seeing, would you be willing to do something? So we've been practicing a lot of recruiting, and one of the women I work with on our GMA is very passionate about curling. And so we talk about, and so I always have to say your hair, so that, and so then you hear the passion, because then she'll tell me what curling is. And I said, you know what? We've been looking to start a curling club in our community with the youth. Would you be willing to help us get started with that? And then it's like, yeah, I have some friends. We've been on a curling team. I think we would work on doing something. So then they get a couple people And then that grows usually from that because they know people who have the same interests, who would maybe be able to help with being from a curling club adult team to getting the parents of the kids that they might be working on curling. But it's finding that one passion. So I said, I was given the name of an individual who I discovered is very much into robotics. And so I am going, how can my club be doing something with robotics when I go and call him to invite him to do something? So it's having that advanced knowledge. And maybe it is finding what that one, there might be one person out there that you know is very passionate about something, and you call and say, hey, can my club help in some way with this? And then they a lot of times have ideas and they can put together another person or two, but you have to get them to do, I think, a service project. It's not inviting them to, hey, come to my meeting to hear us complain and spend an hour and a half on a budget that we should have been done 8 months ago. Oh, that was my own club meeting last night. Never mind. But it does, you have to bring them to an event. And that, so I have recruited several people, and I had mentioned a little earlier about my Operation Joy Toy Drive. It is on the level of a Toys for Tots. We served 228 kids this year. We were up to 267. We had, that day we did have snow. That was the only day we've had snow this year. So we had a lot of cancellations and people that weren't there. But I've gotten people to help with that. And then they've heard later, and then I've invited them to join the club. And we must have had a region meeting or zone meeting talking about, you invite them to events, you invite them to help with service. And one of the guys turns to me and says, that's what you did, isn't it? I said, and it worked too, didn't it? It does. And he was very committed. He spent the entire day with me as a non-lion from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. working on getting set up and everything like that. During COVID, we served some lunches. We had an opportunity to serve lunches with drive-through. So he and I did those types of things. We did all of that before I really had asked him to become a member, because they have to see sometimes that service. And the only time you ask them to join a meeting maybe first is if it's a young professional whose really goal is maybe to network or to gain customers or things like that. Like it's somebody selling insurance. I think what a perfect opportunity, somebody who's selling insurance or Medicare or things like that, because we're all getting that age where we're more interested in how do we maintain insurance after we retire? What are those options and things like that? They could be networking, and maybe that's what they want out of it. And we have to allow that, because a lot of them have great ideas and they have untapped potential also. I think one of our best uses, so you open houses. We have a couple groups that treat their open houses as orientations for their club also. They will ask all the different groups to come in and just have tables around the area. So I can learn about our foundation, the LCIF Foundation, but I can also learn about Wisconsin Lions Foundation and our camp. And I can learn about Leader Dog, and I can learn about, you know, our Restoring Hope and all of those things. And it becomes an orientation for the club, not just for members to learn a little bit more about what Lions is. So I think those are great opportunities whenever we can do something like that. While we ask passion of new members, I think we forget to sometimes ask the passion of our existing members, because it changes over time. Mm-hmm. When I joined the club I joined as a Lioness in '92. I didn't know anybody in the community. And that's really what I wanted that club for, was to start to meet other people. My passion might not be that now. If you were to ask me what my jobs or things like that, I have an accounting degree. Not once has anybody asked me about that, or has asked me to be a treasurer of my club or my district or the multiple. But that's not my passion anyway. So I'm good with that. But we don't ask people, hey, you know, do you have these talents? because there are people out there. Oh, that was what I also discovered was this gentleman, only is he into robotics, he's a web designer. Oh, believe me, we need help with that.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm going to tell him. I'm not going to tell him we are desperate for somebody who can help us with that. I'm going to try to get other things and then go, you know what, we really could use some help. Could you look at it and maybe give us some ideas and maybe hopefully but I won't say, and hopefully take over at some point. But, you know, we need to not scare people off with those types of comments. Hey, you could be the treasurer. You could be the president next year. You could.
Tammy, can I?
Peter, you had something, yeah.
Totally agree with you about bringing possible members into a project first to see what we're about. And we've been really doing that with our pancake breakfasts we have every twice a year, bringing in people to help flip pancakes. And we've gotten a 3 or 4 from that, new lions from that. I think that's one of our things we're working on. The other thing is you're talking about branch clubs. We're trying a branch club here in Spring Lake Park. It's called Bridgeview is the name of the organization. The program is for adults living with a diagnosis of serious and persistent mental illness.
Okay.
And they meet every day, a drop-in center at the local it's called Lee Carlson Center for Mental Wellness. Anyway, and there's like 40 to 50 people that come and go into this program, and they're really into art. They love to create, paint, they ceramic, they do all these things. We got connected with them, and they've been selling their art at our pancake breakfast. And so now we're trying to get them to be a branch club. And they can continue their work on their artwork and all that. And it's really neat to see, and we're working hard on it, trying to get this thing going. The only issue we kind of run into is when this group of people, unfortunately, obviously, don't have a ton of money, right? So it's hard for them to pay dues, you know.
Okay.
But we've talked to them about it, and they want to. Hopefully, they can sell their art and put enough away to, you know, pay the fees every year. That's kind of the plan. So, and we're really working, and we really want this to work out because there's some wonderful people in this group, and they can have their own meetings, do their own thing. They'll be under the Spring Lake Park Lions, correct? As I understand it, right?
Correct.
But they can have their own meetings, do whatever they want on their what they want to do on their you know, in their meetings or activities. But also we certainly include them in ours too. So.
Oh, absolutely. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
One of the things you could do is ask if there might be members in the parent club that might be willing to pay a little extra to help offset some of the dues.
True. That's true. That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good idea. Because
You know,
we do have charitable gambling, but we can't use that for fees, which that'd be great, but we can't do that. But that's a great idea. I mean, we're going to set up a fund for that. Pitch in some money. That's a good idea.
Yeah. You know, I know as we had a Linus Club, as it converted, there was some problems, and one of the members silently donated a few $100s and said, this will be to anybody who says they're struggling a little bit or can't make the whole thing.
Fair.
It was a way to help. They also discovered by splitting the dues and not making them pay it once a year or twice a year, but maybe it was monthly, helped these types.
That's
We had
another good idea.
Special Olympics club that it was hard for them also.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great idea. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Really cool.
We have to think otherwise. And
Right.
I'd say there's not even a box anymore. It's just all open, whatever.
Well, what you've been telling all these different ideas, and it's great because I hadn't thought about like a couple of things you had brought up. There's so many different clubs out there that could become a Lions Club just based on whatever they're into, whatever their passions are. So,
and there, you know, there's so many. There, you saw like some of the bike racing or things like that, but then they collected, you know, food. We will have a seminar, and one of our other conventions had the seminar. It's Epi for Dilly, is what the name.
Mhm.
Something called Dillon's Law. A 18-year-old young man was out hiking, got stung by a bee, did not know he was allergic to bee stings, and ended up passing away. And they are really into racing. And so they've added their mission of they go out and train people on how to use EpiPens. And you become certified that we will then be able to carry any of us Lions that go through the certification with them will be able to carry EpiPens and be able to get them from a pharmacy, from what I understand, at no charge.
Sure.
Or this type of thing. So they add that to their racing, but I'm thinking they have now been involved in several Lions, that maybe it's time that that racing club or whatever they have in there might become a Lions club if we keep working this, because we're a good mouthpiece for that.
Sure. Oh, that's great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get so stuck in it can only be
This
how
way.
we've always had a club, and what else can we do? You know, we have some members who are passionate about doing highway cleanup.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, you know, a club based on that. My club itself is getting old, and we can't dodge the cars as fast anymore.
No, our club is the same. I know.
I know. It's become, I go, highway cleanup's a young person's, you know.
But the other point too, like you say, every time I get some members or talk to the new members that come in, I tell them, "What's your passion? What would you like to see happen in our community? What kind of project would you like to be involved in?" I try to put that in their heads. But I mean, what you're saying is there's already a group out there doing something, and bring the whole group over and plug them in with the Lions.
Because a lot of them are doing things. I have well, and she is a Lion, but one of our examples was, you know, I know she blings. So, or bedazzles, I'm sorry, she bedazzles all kinds of things. Bling is her nickname.
Oh.
But we also know every 12 and 13-year-old girl out there is bedazzling or things like that. So one of our scenarios was, you know, we run into her and she's got all of her stuff bedazzled, and hey, I see, you know, is this a passion of yours? Would you be interested? We want to start a club at the library, because we now have a new library. That would you be able to help them learn how to bedazzle? And they find what she's truly passionate about, and she's willing to bring all of her equipment and everything. And we start this club, but every one of those kids hopefully has some sort of parental unit or guardian. But they also have grandparents and aunts and uncles and all kinds of other people that you do this, you know, you get them that way. Or it might be a sports type of event.
Sure. No, that's...
Yeah, there's tons of things that only limited by our imagination.
No, that's good. That's really good. Good information.
Mm-hmm.
Good ideas, certainly. That's great.
Yeah, and you know, it's just I don't know, have you gone through a lot of that new artificial intelligence on Lions Virtual? There's like a map or an app called Map to Grow. And you can go in there and you can just start asking some questions. Hey, what clubs or what opportunities are there? And we did this for our environmental club to discover there's like 50 different opportunities for us to meet a club that might be interested in the environment. So find a passion, find an idea, and say, hey, what is out there? You know, what can we do? What can
you always think about that. I mean, how do you find out the needs of the community, or what's out, like you say, what's out there and out there that, you know, people can really grab hold of and be passionate about?
Well, and interesting, you can ask for community needs assessment through that program. And I mean, you can't take everything absolute with those things, but it's pretty darn good. When we've done some of those, is like, let's start to practice. It's pretty close to what we've seen. But reading your newspaper helps you a lot with just what kinds of needs. But
Mhm.
sometimes I tell people it's not necessarily even this big formal community
Mhm.
needs assessment. It's taking a project you've always done.
Mhm.
And we used to always do holiday food baskets for the
Mhm.
finding the needy.
Mhm.
And through a chance encounter, I was in the driveway talking to another lion, and we were gearing up. This must have been probably the first part of November. We're going to be doing Thanksgiving baskets.
Mhm.
The person, the director of our food pantry happens to go by because it was prior to election. She's out there, canvassing or whatever. And she said,
Mhm.
"Oh, are you so-and-so with the Lions Club?" And yes, we are. And she said, "I
Mhm.
just really wanted to talk, I think you guys were always doing the Thanksgiving baskets, but
Mhm.
I want you to know we have a group that came through with 250 food baskets.
Mhm.
So my 6 or 12 really doesn't make a difference." But she said, "You know what? Nobody does Christmas ones anymore." And she goes, "Like,
Mm.
we do 6 at Thanksgiving or 6, 12 at Thanksgiving, 12 at Christmas."
Mhm.
She goes, "Could you just move them all to Christmas?"
Mhm.
It's just those little
Sure.
chance things going, well, there we
Mhm.
go. That makes so much more sense to,
Mhm.
have that. I always check with the school when we
Mhm.
do school supplies. What
Mhm.
are the real needs that you have this year?
Mhm.
Because I will tell you over the that has changed so much to,
That has.
needed flash
We do a
drives.
school supply too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
changed a lot.
to one year they asked for trapper keepers, and I'll tell you, I got made. Everybody made fun of me because I put that on the list. Like, yeah, Tammy, the 80s is showing there, and I'm like, I didn't even know what a trapper keeper was, guys. I had to look at it. I'm like, I was pre-trapper
Yeah.
person.
But
But
what you said too, though, is that finding those relationships out there in your community. That's how how a lot of things happen, and we've done that with our food shelf, with the schools. I used to work in a school district, so
Mhm,
I know a lot of people in the schools, and that certainly helps. So
it does.
that's what you know, building relationships
Yeah, and having those partnerships.
and the partnerships. Yep,
We
you bet.
do, our toy drive couldn't happen if the
Hmm.
police department wasn't there
Hmm.
with their bins and helping us. We have a 4-H club that provides about $750 to $1,000 worth of toys or gift cards.
Mm.
There
Nice.
is a credit union league that comes and helps me set up all on the day beforehand,
Hmm.
sending a dozen people and then purchasing areas that we are a little lacking on. One of the real estate agencies comes in and helps set up also. The only
Sure.
time we can't take people is during the actual shopping event because I have to limit
Okay.
that to club only because of privacy. But there's so many other partnerships.
Hmm.
And
Well, how about
that you're
Scouts? Scouts is another one. Scouts?
yeah, we don't have the scouts hit us up
Don't you?
or anything.
We
But we
we they help
should.
us with our pancake breakfast. They wash our dishes, which is nice. But I mean, there's other things, a lot of things out
Mhm.
there. So.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. I
Mhm.
know we used to use the Special Olympics Club for, we had a pancake breakfast at one time too, and they
Mhm.
were the ones that bust the tables and that,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then we made a donation to their club to help them out.
No, that's great. Good stuff. Great
So
stuff.
yeah,
Hmm.
so
Cool.
all of
This is interesting. I'm glad I jumped on. I was kind of a little late there, but I kind of remembered it all of a sudden. It came up on my notification. I said, I better check up on this.
Mhm.
So
Well, and I
that was
think
great.
it's, when we talk about, because yeah, you saw those flash by, but
Hmm.
talking about how can you make it work?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm.
No, that's cool. Very cool.
Well, good.
Good.
Well, good. Any other questions or?
Hmm. No, I think it was good. I'm glad I joined it. It was very interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Good
for coming.
stuff. Good stuff.
Good.
Absolutely. Find those passions
Yep.
and build the clubs around them.